right, folks. Jazzy James of the Fresh Face Frightening Fun Facts here with the always jovial and jubilant and jaunty Kit Kat Kristen. So it's a pleasure to see you as always, and it's feeling kind of warm these days. A little summery to me.
Yes. And okay, fresh faces, let's go. And it's great to be back on Uncommon Journalism, especially after a few inundated months. And we realize how strenuous it was aiming toward endeavors during the academic year, especially while trying to revert back to a normal life. Some of you desired altering careers, also under pressure with fraternities and sorority pledges and initiations, settling for romance, or even becoming the best athlete on a specific team. We all wish these were overnight processes, as we have limited time and patience. Have no fear. Well, no, I take that back. Have some fear, because these strategies also occur in the world of fiction. Therefore, it's acceptable to ponder what you accomplish this school year and also plans for the fall. But for right now, let's take advantage of the summer solaces as we elaborate movies, this time from various genres, on how these characters advanced their goals during the laborious academic year 2020 to 2021. How about that, Jazzy James? Another year has passed by, and so much has happened.
Oh, like you wouldn't believe. 2020, of course, is just a dumpster fire of a year, but it seems like things are finally getting back to normal. And I, for one, can't wait to get out there and just, sip Mai Tais and go to the beach and just actually enjoy society once again. So, hooray.
10-4 on that one. So let's begin the countdown. And as we know, we always start with the bottom of the list with some of the entertaining, but again, underrated movies, and work our way up to the more energetic, more powerful, I would say more optimistic ones. So if I can remember correctly, we're starting with Graduation Day, which came out in 1981, correct?
Oh, unfortunately so.
Yes. And the tagline of this movie is "The class of 1981 is running out of time." And again, this movie is at the bottom of the list because it's one of those, it's one of those low budget B-rated movies where it's something extra, something fun to portray in, but it's also entry level acting. The movie is beneficial to, I would say, get a head start on your acting or filmmaking career. But again, it's got, I was going to say, a very limited storyline, and where 200 seniors at Midvale High were safer during the school year. And as this story goes on, Coach Michael's erroneous behavior really pushed that limited patience and tolerance with the students, which made us to believe that, oh, okay, he is so insensitive and so abrasive that I thought for sure he was the killer. I mean, no question. But then as the movie went on, it turns out that it's unpredictable, but psychotic and traumatized Kevin, who had been systematically slaughtering the track team, which he felt that it was, which he blames for Laura's death. And credit to her sister Anne, because I don't know how I would react if I found my sister or a family member or even a friend corpse in the living room.
I got to give you credit on this one because I feel like sometimes I've seen every bad early 1980s slasher movie. So it's very uncommon for someone to come along and actually tell me about a movie that I've never seen before, little unheard of. And this one, it's got some positive things going for it. I think probably my favorite thing about the movie is the editing. The editing in this one is really, really good, and that's obviously, sort of indicative of the opening scene where you have like the track and field events and you have the disco music going on. There's all these quick cuts. I mean, that's a really, really outside of the norm kind of genre shot there. You don't really see stuff that active and been photobombed.
And especially during Sally's slaughter bathroom scene. And at the same time, the acting is so horrible and unrehearsed. You know, as she says, it's kind of like with Friday the 13th, like, you know that you're going to die, even though you do that like naive, who is that? What are you doing? But then again, at the same time, the editing, I mean, the editing was superb in that case.
Yeah, so it's got some good music. The editing is pretty good. I'll give them credit. You know, the idea of having a slash movie revolve around track and field events, I think, that's pretty inventive. You know, it's not just the standard Friday the 13th and Halloween ripoff. There's at least one really good death scene where the guy's like pole vaulting in the gym and he lands on the cushion. And there's like 9,000 skewers and nails and stuff underneath it. So that one pretty inventive. But like you said, I mean, the acting's not there. The storyline is fairly derivative. There's not really a whole lot of twists and turns, and the acting leaves a lot to be desired. That said, I will say there is one actress in the movie of note. So, playing one of the victims in this one, a very, very famous person on television, one of the most iconic TV stars of all time. Getting her start in acting in Graduation Day, it is
Vanna White, right before her Wheel of Fortune fame, yes. And also, we have Linnea Quigley portraying her sex-crazed character. I was going to say also, what's the word? Oh, X-rated. I mean, pretty much what she's done in Return of the Living Dead, Silent Night, Deadly Night. But most of all, Vanna White is the highlight of this movie.
Yeah, she definitely has some acting chops. I didn't think she'd be as multifaceted as she is. So it was really nice to see her get her digs in there. But like all slash movies in the early 80s, you really can't expect too much as far as great filmmaking. But it has its moments. It's fun. If it's a late Saturday night, you can enjoy it. And okay, I forgot the cat's name. Is it Tommy?
This is Tommy, yes. As you can see, he will be a part of the show sporadically, but I guess he's allowed.
Oh yeah, we've been looking for a mascot for a while. So you are the official Uncommon Journalism spokescat.
Yes, and it's not like he's never been mentioned before. And it turns out I think I converted him into not just a horror fan, but a movie geek. So, yes, we have a mascot right behind us.
All right. And moving along on our summer solace from school strategies countdown, I love the alliteration there. That's always kind of been one of my things, is the literary nerd there. We have a more recent film. I believe this is from 2010, 2011. It is the Cameron Diaz, Justin Timberlake vehicle, Bad Teacher. So I wasn't a really big fan of this movie. I mean, it had its moments, but I think the problem with this movie is that Cameron Diaz is just so incredibly unlikable as the main character that I just couldn't really get into the overall feel and vibe of the movie.
Oh, I mean, there's no other way to say it. Her character, Elizabeth Halsey, she was troublesome, gold digger, scandalous, pot smoker, where her students really relied on her to teach seventh grade. And again, it's not the best Cameron Diaz movie. I don't know if it was because of her character, but I think I liked her better in There's Something About Mary, Charlie's Angels, The Other Woman. Again, those were definitely more entertaining. But again, although Elizabeth Halsey was promoted to the guidance counselor at the end of the film, again, she was very unlikable during that academic year, especially to Amy Squirrel, whereas she would quote, "Later we will all die," says the gator to the fly, because she just wanted Elizabeth out of there. And also, I was lusting after Jason Segel's character, not Justin Timberlake's. And hey, may I ask, when you were in school, what did you do during period 5?
Period 5. Oh, wow. It seems like period 5 is a very social studies kind of period to me. I don't know. It kind of has that numerical value to it. Yeah, nothing fun. I can assure you.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then I read To Kill a Mockingbird for 10th grade. I may have procrastinated on the reading assignments, but I did not get hit with a basketball when I answered the test questions incorrectly. So, again, that's why they call it Bad Teacher. But one thing I did like about the movie is that the diverse students, because of course you had the predicting politician, Sasha Abernathy. You also had the introverted romantic stalker. I believe his name was Chase. You had the popular, ostentatious seventh graders, the dull witted hipsters. So there were a lot for Elizabeth Halsey to engage in, even though she despised all of them.
So the character is a stalker, and his name is Chase. These guys, they're clever. I'll give them that.
Yeah, for sure. And I will have to point out, especially during the Christmas party, I mean, who does not play 8675309 Jenny Jenny? Total flashback of the 80s.
I think probably my favorite part of the movie, there's a recurring joke about the teacher who just doesn't actually want to teach class, so she just rolls in like those old TV carts, and they show like 1980s education movies, which I think is really startlingly realistic, because I had a lot of substitute teachers back in the day. That was like their entire course load was just showing Stand and Deliver over and over and over again. So that part really got me in the nostalgia bone.
Right. And again, I mean, it's not every day that like she would said you would catch your dog doing it with peanut butter everywhere. Oh, she was very obscure about that. I mean, it was one of those situations where she would say, "Hey, I'm sorry, my relationship didn't work out," but instead she decided to reveal, although that it was inaccurate information, she decided to reveal some grotesque stories that kind of turned Russell, Jason Segel's character, down, because he really developed feelings for her. And after a while, she should have caught on to that, I think, a little bit sooner. But overall, again, not a bad movie, but in some ways it's very slow moving, especially if you're trying to analyze it during the whole academic year. But again, I've enjoyed more.
And you're going to be a little controversial and pick Jason Segel over Justin Timberlake. I'm going to be controversial. I'm going to pick Amy Squirrel over Cameron Diaz in this one. I know.
Especially not especially not during period 5.
Of course. Of course.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So moving along in our countdown, we're going from bad to good as we go from Bad Teacher to Good Will Hunting, the Oscar darling from 1997. Now, believe it or not, this movie, it's, more than 20 years old now. I
Yes.
not seen it until a couple of weeks ago, so this is one of the ones that's never crossed paths before. And there are certain things I like about it, but I think it's very obviously a dated movie in a lot of respects, which kind of took me out of the experience. But you got some good performances. I'm not quite sure how realistic the main character of Matt Damon is, but Rob Williams puts on a really great performance in this one. I think that alone is worth going out of the way to see the movie.
Oh, yes. And I agree. Great acting, especially by Matt Damon, Minnie Driver, you had Robin Williams. But I think, again, this is at the bottom of the list because I don't like a lot of dramatic movies. As you know, I prefer to be witty and laughing or scared. But again, I like the screenplay of Good Will Hunting, but it's not a movie that I could watch repetitively, whether I'm having a good or a bad day. And especially when the romance between Will and Minnie Driver's character sidetracked, but then in hopes of regaining toward the end.
Yeah, I just couldn't buy the fact that this guy is a complete layabout. He's also a math wizard and like an expert on 17th century New England pilgrim law, and also he knows everything about international economics. He somehow manages to like hold all that information in his head simultaneously, but never uses it. I've never really encountered anyone like that. I mean, there's people with elements of it, but it just didn't really seem like he would be a good protagonist for a story. It's kind of hard to root for him until the very, very end. But I mean, he's got his moments. I didn't grow up in New England like you did, so you might have a little bit more of an aesthetic feeling for it. So, just how accurate is the movie in terms of capturing that that New England air and atmosphere.
Yes, I mean, and again, this took place in Boston, and then when I saw that movie several weeks ago, I don't know how long, but I mean, again, just the whole settings really intrigued me, and then they started talking about the Boston Red Sox, and also anything that was part of during that particular season, and but again, I think as opposed to being in New England, I think I really focused on Will Hunting because, like you had said, he was very intelligent, but he just did not use those gifts and talents like he really should have. Like he just started off as a janitor and then he sought help from Robin Williams, and it just, he could have accomplished more than I think he was more, yeah, he just didn't realize how he had a lot going for him. But again, it's an okay movie.
Yeah, I don't think it's as good. It doesn't stand up as much as it would have in the late 1990s. There's got its moments, like you said, it has a really great script, very punchy dialogue. So it's got that working for it.
Right. Well, I will say that Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, they were sure attractive back in the late 1990s. They still look good now, but I would say during that time, those were those best moments, even during the highlight of their careers.
It's hard to argue against that one. All right, and moving along on our countdown to a movie set in the 1970s. So we're going from a 1990s period piece to a 1970s period piece. It is Dazed and Confused, the iconic slacker stoner movie of the 1990s. So I guess it's one of those movies where it's catered to a very, very specific audience. I don't know about you, but in my high school years, I never really, got invited to that many makeout parties or cake parties. So a lot of this stuff doesn't really kind of resonate with me on a nostalgic level. But do you really kind of need that to enjoy the holistic film, or is it just something where if you're alien to those experiences, it just doesn't work at all for you?
Yeah, and I really like how they analyze the 1970s, which was sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And they even had some of the music to highlight that decade. I mean, you had Summer Breeze, Sweet Emotion by Aerosmith, Cherry Bomb by the Runaways, and of course, School's Out by Alice Cooper. One of my favorite quotes, and I think you know what I'm about to say, but a memorable quote in Dazed and Confused was, "The 70s, my God, they obviously suck. So maybe the 80s will be like Radical."
Well, they weren't wrong.
They most definitely were not wrong. But then again, I think this is we're getting toward the middle of the list because, like you, I was never invited to any wild, any lawn, any bonfires, any making out, any alcohol, drugs, parties, especially during my high school years. So I could not relate what they were doing like once they got out of high school. But I did like some of the actors who starred in it. I'm sure you remember Sasha Jensen, check you later, who was in Halloween 4. You also had Joey Lauren Adams, Anthony Rapp. So there is a variety of actors in that.
And whenever someone talks about Dazed and Confused, I automatically go to one character and one character only. And that is Matthew McConaughey putting on one of the greatest, most iconic performances of the 1990s.
Right.
Say what you about the movie as a whole. Matthew McConaughey in this movie absolutely just dominates it. It's a great all-time performance.
Oh, it is. And, for this movie, I mean, this movie came out in 1993, but to portray wild high school students from back in 1976. Oh, yes, you cannot forget and you cannot replace Matthew McConaughey in this movie.
It seems like, no matter where I am in life, I know at least one guy like Matthew McConaughey's character. Like, no matter where I go in life, what age range, where I'm working, there's always that one archetype there. So I think he just absolutely nailed that persona. Probably my favorite thing about this movie, and it's something no one ever brings up, is a throwaway scene towards the end of the movie where they're talking about Stairway to Heaven, and obviously they couldn't get the rights to Stairway to Heaven, so they're having to analyze the song that they couldn't actually license for the movie indirectly. which I thought was like a really sort of neat thing that, you have to kind of do when you're an independent filmmaker and you don't have the money for the rights. So that always kind of stood out to me as something kind of neat and inventive and something no one ever brings up because people aren't as specific as I am.
And then, of course, they really try to make it authentic. I mean, they had the bell bottoms, they had the loose blouses, they had the colors, they had the hippie necklaces, the long hair. Again, so they made it like it was the true 1970s classic film.
All right, and we're doing sort of like a 90s, 70s, 90s sandwich here as we move along to the middle row here. And this movie holds a special place in my heart because it's the first R-rated movie I saw in a theater by myself back in 1997. It is Scream 2, one of the better horror sequels of the 1990s, in my humble opinion. So, in some ways, I actually like this one more than the original Scream. I know it's a controversial opinion, not a lot of people share it, but I think it's a good movie. It kind of has a great college setting, lots of good additional characters, great dialogue, fantastic kills, a great ending. I mean, it's just a really, really good pop horror movie.
And I don't think it's controversial at all because, again, I liked this movie better than the original because we learned that Stab becomes non-fictional again. And it's a decent sequel with, you got Neve Campbell, David Arquette, Courtney Cox, Sarah Michelle Gellar. I liked how Sarah Michelle Gellar's character's friends also imitates the Friday the 13th theme on the phone. And who could not forget the scene where the killer is talking to Randy and the question is, what's your favorite scary movie? And he says Showgirls. He proclaims that that was a very scary movie. And I also like how Scream 2 references Final Exam, Graduation Day, The House on Sorority Row, and what was the other one? Can you recall that?
Oh man, I can't. I know they make reference to House 2, the second story, which is the most like bizarre throwaway line I've heard in a mainstream movie. But is it The Dorm That Dripped Blood?
I believe so. But what I really liked about the first two is we actually elaborated Final Exam and Academic Horrors last year, and then we just did Graduation Day. So I really like how they reminisce that. Also, Scream 2 has some good karma where you have Billy Loomis's mother as the killer. And what a trade, I was going to say, what a trade for a college student, paying for a college student's tuition in exchange for the killing spree. So much for Mikey trying to accomplish an education. But again, Loomis's mother set it all up.
Yep, and probably my favorite scene in this movie, absolutely nothing horror related at all. It's the part where Jerry O'Connell sings, I Think I Love You, What Am I So Afraid Of, in the cafeteria.
I
Just like
think I love you. As in the Partridge Family's I Think I Love You. Again,
just out of
not
nowhere.
relevant to the movie, but again, something to laugh about for sure.
So yeah, I think Scream 2 definitely slightly underrated. I mean, there's some parts that are obviously dated because it is the late 1990s, but overall, a really good, enjoyable little movie. If you haven't seen it in a while, it's definitely worth checking out. And
Of course.
speaking of 1990 movies that we need to revisit if you haven't seen them in a while, you can't have any talk about summer movies or school-related movies in the 90s without bringing up at least one Adam Sandler. And that brings us to Billy Madison.
Which came out in 1995.
Yeah, Billy Madison. I mean, this was right when Adam Sandler was like at his, cultural apex here. I mean, he just did Happy Gilmore. He was about to do The Water Boy. So this is kind of a pretty good streak for him at this point in time.
Yeah. I mean, man, I'm so nervous. I mean, analyzing Scream 2 and Graduation Day were easy, but I mean, Penguins, I was going to say social studies, real academics, going back to school to impress his dad. This is going to be tough.
That is the worst answer I've ever heard. We are all dumber as a collective people for hearing that.
Jackpot.
Man, that movie is, I think whenever you have an Adam Sandler movie, there's a lot of audience dissidence in it where, I think a lot of normal people and moviegoers like us really enjoy them. The critics absolutely despise them. There's like lowbrow, bottom of the barrel toilet humor. But I don't really see what's wrong with that. I mean, when it's really well done, it actually has a little bit of warmth and humor and heart to it, like you have in this particular movie.
Right. I mean, hey, they threw a party for him every time he passed the first, the second, the third grade. I know Eric wasn't too pleased about that, but then again, we're not here to impress Eric. I mean, hey, Adam Sandler went back to school to prove to his dad that he wasn't a fool. And he really took a risk because rather than running the hotels, he decided to become a teacher. Hopefully, he will not indulge in any of the cafeteria food because you would come across that sloppy Joe lady, and she was scary.
You know, I think when you look at any of these Adam Sandler movies from back in the 90s, there's always such a great supporting cast. I mean, you've got guys like Norm Macdonald in there, and of course, Chris Farley. I mean, he adds so much to this movie in his performance there, and he has some of the best lines, too. So, what would be your favorite scene in
Oh,
this movie?
especially, well, I mean, hey, well, I mean, as far as Chris Farley, I mean, hey, be glad that Billy Madison called him.
Hey, definitely.
Yes. And also, I really like the soundtrack because you got I'll Tumble For You for Culture Club. You also got the Jackson 5 ABC, also the Cars, also the Sticks. So it really fit the movie. And of course, who does not like the scene where they are singing the so-called musical, Do You Have Any More Gum? Sorry, don't really have much of a voice with this, but they were there to help him, Billy, get back to school today. You got to work real hard and stick it out till graduation day.
Billy Madison, it's such a juvenile movie, but at the same time, you can't help but love it. I mean, it's just, it has such a tenderness to it. It has something kind of genuine to it, which I think is missing in a lot of the goofier movies or and cornball comedies we're seeing nowadays. So once again, I gotta agree. I think it's a fairly underrated little comedy from the '90s, and I think Adam Sandler just doesn't really get enough, respect and admiration for what he did during that time frame.
Right. And hey, I mean, if you ever came across the story of the puppy who lost his way, if you ever come across that in real life, I mean, don't just sit there waiting for him to come home. You get your ASS out there and find that freaking dog.
Has there ever been better stage life advice in a movie than that? That's just beautiful.
Yes. Well, like Miss Lippy would say, it's time to play dodgeball, but I was going to say, after emphasizing that, I think it's time to elaborate another movie.
All right, and we have a movie which I went back and watched it, and it's kind of a bizarre thing because I didn't really enjoy it as much as I did on my most recent videos I did the last time I watched it. But it's still a very, very good comedy. It's a perennial movie. It's pretty much, the college comedy that all subsequent college comedies have been patterned after, and that is from 1978's National
This must
Lampoon's
be
Animal
Animal
House.
House. Yes, Animal House was released on July 28th of 1978. And this movie makes me want to shout, get your hands up and shout a little bit softer now, softer now, a little bit softer now, shout a little bit softer now, a little bit louder now, shout a little bit louder now, a little bit louder now, shout a little bit louder now, shout a little bit louder now, shout, hey, 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 hey.
How can you not love it? I mean, it's just it's a fun, jaunty little movie.
Toga! Toga!
So yeah, it's a very interesting movie. It's a film from the 1970s, which is kind of rooted in 1950 or 1960s nostalgia. It's set in
It was
19
set in 1962, Faber College theme.
Favorite
So,
college.
and especially if you were this naive freshman, I mean, uh, hold on, I mean, okay, I need to make an impression when going to the fraternity or sorority house. Excuse me, sir, is this the Delta House?
It's an amazing thing. This movie came out, 40, almost 50 years ago, and it's based on a time frame that's like 60 or 70 years old. But to me, it seems like the college experience really hasn't changed that much just from Animal House to the current day. I mean, obviously some trends have changed, but the overall experience, the goofiness, the carefree attitude, and like I said up front, I mean, pretty much every college comedy that's come out after Animal House has at least in some way paid an oblique, acknowledgement to it. Of course, you got Jim Belushi putting on one of the all-time comedic performances here. And you got a really great ensemble cast. I think pretty much every college movie has tried desperately to have a villain as evil as Dean Wormer in this movie.
Yes. And also rest in peace to John Belushi, who again was just outstanding character, definitely was the highlight of this film. Again, I personally liked him throughout his acting life, even though he was another one who fell into the drug and alcohol combinations. But overall, I really enjoyed him. Just don't eat lunch with him in the college cafeteria because he is quite the pig.
Ugh, I miss him too. All right, and moving along, a lot of jumping around here from decade to decade. So this one is the definition of a guilty pleasure movie. This one is from 1999. It is the cult classic Cruel Intentions. And when you say 1990s and ultra trashy teen movies, boy, this movie is it.
Sorry, I was trying to do the Annette Hargrove impression, but yeah, released March 5th of 1999. And again, this was a good movie, but it was also bittersweet because this brought a closure to the 1990s decade. And back then, alternative music was meaningful. You had Praise You by Fatboy Slim, Every You, Every Me by, I'm going to spell it, I don't know how to pronounce it, Placebo. Also, Bittersweet Symphony by The Verb. And, maybe after this show, maybe I will get an iced tea. This time it will be from Long Island.
Yeah, and of course you got the Blessed Union of Souls on there. You've got Blurs in there. I mean, you got a lot of really great 1990 staples on the soundtrack for this one. So Cruel Intentions, it's a very unique movie. It's actually a sort of adaptation of a late 19th century French novel. I believe it is called Les Dangerous Liaisons. So, and I actually went back and actually read the book a couple of years ago. And believe it or not, the book is actually way, way trashier than Teenage Adaptation that came out 100 years later. So go figure.
Oh, you actually paid attention to the big bad book?
Well, you get bored during the summer sometimes.
I guess you do. And again, I really like the screenplay and, of course, the each of the characters' elements because it turns out that the sex-crazed, seductive Sebastian actually has generous vibes, especially when he tries to, again, befriend the virginal Annette Hargrove. But then as the movie goes on, it turns out that Catherine is the deceiving and condescending bitch. And toward the end, everyone finally realized that she is the bulimic head case. So she definitely got her karma. But again, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Reese Witherspoon, Selma Blair, that was when they were becoming really popular in the late 1990s, also 2000s. And both Reese Witherspoon and Selma Blair would 2 years later star in Legally Blonde.
Yeah, so many great connections there. And Sarah Michelle Gellar's character in this movie is like the antithesis of Buffy. It's kind of hard to get any more corrupt than actually carrying around cocaine and a crucifix. So, what an evil, evil character.
Oh, but she was the Marsha Brady of that movie. Well, up until the end.
All right, so I guess probably the most famous or infamous thing the movie is known for is back in 1999, you really didn't have a whole lot of same-sex making out going on in the movies. So the most notorious scene actually involves Selma Blair and Sarah Michelle Gellar basically just like making out in Central Park. So I mean, nowadays, nothing too controversial, but I remember, like, back in the day, that was just like beyond the pale.
Yeah. And actually, I think I liked Cruel Intentions to the extent where I didn't even bother to see the sequel because I thought the first one was done really well.
You bring up a good point because there's actually, I believe, two sequels to Cruel Intentions, and actually, the second one has Amy Adams in it playing the evil character. So, what a launching pad!
Right. What do you think, Tommy? I was going to say, is that why you jumped on here? Is this all about Cruel Intentions?
Well, I have been curious what cats think about Sarah Michelle Gellar's filmography, so this could be good.
Yes.
All right, and moving along from Cruel Intentions, a controversial movie from the 1990s, we have a movie which is the definition of you couldn't make it today. From 1984, it is Revenge of the Nerds.
Clap your hands, everybody, and everybody clap your hands. The Tri-Lambda studs have got it all, even the one who's 4 foot tall. This has got to be one of the most risque college movies of the 1980s. I just love it. And it's got a very optimistic soundtrack as well because you got songs like One Foot in Front of the Other, They're So Incredible, Revenge of the Nerds as well. And of course, I mean, who would not play We Are the Champions, especially after you accomplish something?
Oh, oh yeah, I mean, you got Michael Jackson's Thriller in there. I mean, you got a lot of really good stuff going on in the soundtrack of this movie, which I think a lot of people kind of discount when they talk about the feature as a whole. So yeah, I love this movie. It's one of my all-time favorite comedies, one of my favorite 1980s movies. Such a great cast. I mean, you got I mean, pretty much everybody in this movie puts on a really fantastic performance. I mean, you got probably the one that stands out the most to me is Curtis Armstrong playing Booger, who is the grossest, most risque of the risque, I believe, in this film.
Right. And why do they call Dudley Dawson Booger? I mean, obviously he doesn't know, and it's like that there are no indications throughout the movie.
Yep, I'm drawing a blank. I can't think of a
Yeah.
single thing that he does or a single pattern of behavior.
Right. And what is a nerd? We are.
Yeah, it's one of those things where another reason why you couldn't really make Revenge of the Nerds today is because literally everyone is a nerd. So, I mean, you have to do like Revenge of the Jocks for the movie to work thematically nowadays, but it's kind of hard to talk about Revenge of the Nerds. Like you said earlier, it's that values dissonance. A lot of things that happen in this movie probably would not fly today. Um, in fact, I actually have a list here of no less than 34 felony crimes committed by the cast of the movie, if you would like to hear at least a sampling of it.
Oh, please do.
All right, give me 1 second here. All right, so from the beginning, and I have the timestamps here if you're interested in actually watching the movie along at home and just watching the crimes unfurl. Okay, so at the 7 minute and 40 second mark of the movie, so not even 2 minutes in, we have a scene where Ogre holds a pledge off a fraternity balcony and drops him 2 or 3 stories to the lawn below, possibly directly on his neck. So using the Arizona Code of 1984, which is where the movie was filmed, so I'm having to be super
Yes.
technical here, that would constitute at least one count of aggravated assault and possibly first-degree murder, depending on the severity of the injury. So right off the bat, it's a wacky teen comedy with murder going on in the 8 second mark, or 8 minutes before the movie gets going. And from there, I mean, we've got misdemeanor offenses involving alcohol served to juveniles. We've got arson, we've got reckless conduct, insurance fraud, attempt to commit conspiracy, illegal eviction, home invasions, burglary, more attempted murder. Let's see what else we got here. Lewd conduct, theft of livestock, possible sexual assault, federal hate crimes, and we're not even 20 minutes in the movie yet. So 1980s comedy classic right there. What can I say?
Wow. Yes, what can I say? And also, I was going to say, going back to something a little bit more clean, um, most of the actors were not their actual ages. Ogre and Booger were actually in their 30s as opposed to college students. And also, what are your top 2 favorite events of the talent show? I'm going to have to go with the tricycle race And then strangely enough, the belching contest.
Yeah, I think those are the top two for everybody. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat the back-to-back bicycling contest and the belching contest. I mean, watching Booger and Ogre go at it in a burping competition, that is just the cream of the crop.
Well, I mean, he's a nerd, but everyone's a nerd. And remember, on this show, there are no pigs. Nerds, 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 nerds.
It makes me proud. I want to watch this movie again. This is one of those movies where I could like watch it like 2 or 3 times a year and never get bored. So, Revenge of the Nerds. Oh.
Yeah, and I was going to say, hold that thought, because the Revenge of the Nerds cast also appears in the, I don't know, Comic Cons, several cons, especially the ones that are actually occurring now. I mean, you'll mainly get Curtis Armstrong as Booger. There was also Andrew, the last name is spelled Cassese, who played Harold Wormser. He was the younger guy, and he's happy to elaborate what it was like portraying in a risque college movie, especially at that age. You'll see Ogre. Sometimes you'll see Betty Childs. You will see the guy who played Lewis, and then of course Takoshi. Is it Takashi?
I think it's Takashi.
Takashi, yes. And you could tell that they still keep in touch after all these years. They had so much fun filming. And I mean, they have just like numerous and extensive scenes where their hard work paid off. And of course, this movie is a classic.
Absolutely. Makes me proud to be a nerd. All right.
Nerds.
Nerds. And that brings us to our top movie. This is one of those movies where, I think it's not my personal favorite on the countdown, but it's also one of those movies where if you talk about summer and you talk about escaping from school and you talk about, seasonal movies, to have anything else other than this movie at number one, I think would just be nonsensical. Considered by many to be the best musical of the 1970s. Oh, look at that. You got the moves going on already.
Yes.
It is the iconic, the immortal, the illustrious Grease.
And Grease is the word. It's got groove, it's got meaning. And another one from 1978. Gosh, that was a good year. Too bad it was before our time, because we did Animal House. The original Halloween was also in 1978. I mean, this was, I was going to say, oh, I don't want the show to end. I am having so much fun tonight. This has been great. And also, when elaborating Grease, I mean, here it is, the first day of school and 86 days until vacation. And I'm just like, wow, you're counting already. Finish the sentence. So the car is automatic. It is systematic. It is hydromatic. What is it?
It's a very good car. Grease Lightning.
Go, 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 go. Also, let's do a little bit of trivia here with Grease. Which of the following is not a pink lady? Jan, Rizzo, Patty Simcox, or Frenchie?
Okay, well, I know Frenchie's one for sure. Is it Patty?
It is Patty. That is correct. True or false? Cha-Cha is a friend of the family. That's how Danny knows her.
That sounds like it could be true, so I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I'm going to go with false on this. Although during that scene, there really is no, I was going to say, there really is no right or wrong answer with that. Like, she could be a friend of the family, but either way, she and Danny used to go together, and I'm sure that they had some wild times, considering she is the best dancer, but worst reputation. Also, what is the name of the clan where Danny just had to keep rocking and rolling in order to be cool around them?
Okay, I'm so sorry. It's been a late night for me. You guys gotta help me on this one, unfortunately.
Okay. You don't remember the name of the group at all? You know how they wore the leather jackets and the T-Birds.
Yeah, right on the tip of my tongue. Almost
Right.
there.
And one last question. What non-regrettable decision did Frenchie make after her musical session with Frankie Avalon, her guardian angel?
I'm going to have to defer this one to you. I think you are the Grease expert.
She went back to school. Remember, she was a beauty school dropout. And what a relief from having her hair going from an Easter egg to a beautiful blonde pineapple. All right, maybe you'll know this one. I'll make this last one easy. What was the name of the high school?
How? Okay, why am I drawing a blank? Oh, what was it called? Okay, give me the first three letters.
RYD.
RYD. Rydell High?
Yes, good job, good job. You know what? Analyzing this really is making me get my hopes up. I really hope that we have an in-person Dragon Con this year because, just to go back to those summer nights.
Yeah, it's such a great summery seasonal kind of movie. I didn't see it until like 2013, 2014, so I'm way, way late in the party. So I kind of have some misconception of what I thought the movie would be like, but it's actually a really, really good, teen drama. Kind of captures, that soul high school summer experience of first love. And even though it is, a pure piece set in the 50s, I think a lot of us can relate to it, no matter what era we're from. And of course, the main attraction, the music in this movie is just superb.
Yes, and also the ending, which is my favorite. I mean, they had it made. That was a candy carnival, a wop up a loop up, ba da bam boom. And I didn't like it when they said that they will never see each other because they just graduated from high school. No, they will always be together. They will always be together. Just keep in touch. Like Ramalama, ding dong, wop up a loop up, a lop bam boom. Uh-oh.
You got John Travolta in his prime. You got Olivia Newton-John in her prime. I mean, pretty much
Stockard
everybody in
Channing.
this.
Yeah. Powerful performances by all of them.
Just a great ensemble cast. And if you haven't seen it before, what are you waiting for? It's summer. You need to be watching Grease. You just stay away from Grease too, though. I mean, don't get curious about that one. It just doesn't exist.
No, actually, I kind of felt bad for Michelle Pfeiffer because Grease 2 was a horrible movie. And I know that she was like the main character in that, but no, didn't get to go to Grease 2.
So, have you heard that the High School Musical movies on Disney actually started off as like a remake of Grease?
Yes.
So, we dodged that bullet too, I think.
So, well, I was going to say, I guess instead of saying goodbye to Sandra Dee, I think we're going to have more of Sandra Dee.
Ah, absolutely. Well, I mean, looking at our list here, that's pretty much everything we've got. But, it's been such a fun ride. I really don't want the podcast to end. It's a lot like a really great high school summer.
Well, like they say in Animal House, over? Did you say over? No, nothing is over until we decide it is.
And on that note, I can't think of a better note to go out on. So, as far as uncommon journalism is concerned, I mean, we got a lot of events coming up here. It is Dragon Con season. It is con season just in general throughout the Southeast here. So we'll make getting some coverage there. Halloween's right around the corner. Plenty of movies coming out. So lots of things to look forward to.
Right. And again, I know that these processes are never easy, but everyone keep up the awesome work. Go for your goals. Keep up with those strategies. Accomplish your endeavors. But for right now, have a terrific summer.
All right, kids. We'll be seeing you around just in time for fall break.
Peace.